Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Pash On Podcast. Let's get started with your host, Brian Pash.
Hi, this is Brian Pash, and welcome to an exciting podcast interview. Today, we're going to be talking about a really important topic that can help dealers improve their sales process, also to see blind spots in the reasons or causes behind defection rates. These are leads in the CRM that were submitted to your dealership and they decided to buy elsewhere. Do you really know when that happens? And do you know why? We're going to get into that today. So today, I'm really happy to have Jeff Vaughn. He's the CMO of Cable Dahmer Automotive Group with 8 rooftops. And Jason Parsons, he's an account executive at Urban Science. We're going to be talking about the workshop that's coming up, the defection study. So let's start at a very high level. Jeff, when you approached Urban Science and they told you that they have the ability each day to tell you which leads in the CRM have purchased elsewhere, where they purchased, what they bought, what thoughts came to your mind? Because this is typically a blind spot because people start ghosting you normally when they've bought a car.
Well, first thought was, yeah, right. And then we hopped on with Jason and he showed us that, the data is there, and went through some samples and a few weeks of him sending some reports and kind of digging in. And then it went into, wow, how much time can I save our BDC, our sales team? And then how many opportunities can we give our service department since we missed it on the sales side in order to have that customer at least come service with us?
Jason, you help dealers understand the different various data sets. Just for dealers who are not familiar with the tools that Jeff is using to create an amazing feedback loop for their executive management team, what are the products he's using? And then we'll get into specifically how we're using them in this study.
Yeah, there's really 3 key products that Jeff and his team is using. One is Market View, which is going to give you the industry insights into where are customers buying. So where is the opportunity? And then Drive Growth, which has a traffic view and retail performance within it, is really a tool focused on operational analysis, what's holding the dealer back. And then Sales Alert is going to give you that kind of closed loop on when you engage customers and they buy somewhere else. Who are they? When did they buy somewhere else? So that you can train and action, off of those defections, as you kind of kick the podcast off here.
So for dealers who have not seen this data set, one of the metrics I think that was very important, and my brother Glenn, who does sales process coaching for dealers, he loved to see where the defection happened, meaning where there might be a weak spot. Jeff, when you first started looking at the data and saw where, let's just say, the biggest spike in defections were, what was that time period? And did you rationalize and understand why the defection rates at that time would normally peak by looking at your sales process?
100%. And it was more of our, really digging into our BDC process and looking at our follow-up. And so we found so many opportunities and we've always known it, but we couldn't necessarily see it on when that customer dropped off. And we have a unique kind of situation, I think, in the market because we have 3 different Chevrolet stores and we book in the city. We have 2 different Buick GMC stores and we book in the city, and then we have a bunch of competitors, honestly, that are in the center. And so when Urban Science allowed us to pull out the defections to our sister stores, it was very interesting to be able to dig into, okay, this dealer is beating us. We've lost X number of sales to them. What's the online strategy that they're taking? What's the follow-up process that they're taking? We went to the extreme, honestly, of secret shopping some of those, even in person. And so I think I'm banned from a lot of airlines from having too many burner phones, but it allowed us to do some deep secret shopping. And honestly, we had a big win in the month of October. And I contribute a lot of it to the Urban Science data. One of our Chevrolet stores that has been struggling, we kind of used it as our test to use that defection data to have one-on-ones with the sales staff and teach them that, hey, we're back in the car business. We're not order takers anymore. Work with the BDC to install a longer follow-up process on it. And then the neat part is we re-engaged those leads, at that 15 to, honestly, it's about 45 days to 91 days that we saw we had the most competitive OEM defections, and we built a defensive process within the organization to rework those customers with direct mail and all sorts of different strategies. That store in October was number one in the market, and it's been multiple years since they've been, that. And so big win, and it was awesome to be able to look back at the data and see a lot of those customers that we had saw defected. We got them back in for service. They bought the second car from us, and so there's a lot of neat information that came back on it.
Yeah, we're going to get into that because there's also the survey part that I think in the coming months we're going to have another ability to get back onto a call and analyze that. Jason, what is really powerful in the story that Jeff just shared with us is when you see the blind spots, you don't know when people drop off, right? They just stop responding to your email or block your phone calls. Knowing when they defected allowed them to see, wow, we were really good, let's just say, in the first 2 to 3 weeks, but then we got burnt out and we didn't have an automated drip marketing or a multimedia approach to keep them going, and they fixed that hole. But it also is about switching the message with the data that Urban Science provides, Jason, right? Dealers who have a CDP can get that data via API to trigger new workflows, move someone out of a sales workflow or a sales audience into a service audience. But you also have integrations with CRMs. Could you talk a little bit about that? Each day, you can update the dealer's CRM with a note, a message, or in your own dashboard. How are dealers who don't have a CDP using that data more tactically?
Yeah, absolutely. The integrations with the CRM integrations and even the API integrations that you mentioned are so critical to the use of the data, the optimization of the data within the dealership operations. As we know, dealers have a lot of tools, a lot of options from OEMs and third-party tools that they can use to try to drive performance. So Sales Alert is unique in its ability to integrate right into your operations without it being another tool that everyone has to log into. Pushing the information right into the dealer's CRM is now influencing the behavior of the entire operations, including the salespeople who are using the CRM tool on a daily basis. And you're doing it seamlessly in a way that now when you go in to look for a customer that you're going to follow up with, and what you maybe spend 5 minutes following up with that customer for 6 weeks at a minimum, now you know that customer bought somewhere else, and you can pivot the messaging to try to get them back in for service or other opportunities.
So good, so good. Jeff, you have an advanced data strategy at your dealer group. You're leading that charge to manage your first party data with your own data lake. And what I loved about this project we're working on and will be reporting on in the coming months and sharing at MRC is this idea is that when that defection occurs, triggering a survey, asking them why, and using that feedback loop to, see areas of business operations that maybe you don't see. Why was that appealing to you? Because as I've shared it with some other of your peers, your marketing directors and CMOs, they're like, oh, that is so cool. I mean, we can do that automated. I said, yeah, if you have a ability to trigger emails. Why was it interesting to you?
It gave us insight into our process and to see where we were dropping the ball in that process that frustrated the customer enough to, not purchase from us. And the the neat thing is, within the last couple weeks, and really excited. So we tapped into Urban Science's API directly. We pulled the information down ourselves and then process the data. It was such an easy process with Urban Science API documentations. But the neat thing is we've really focused on those customers that purchased their last vehicle or currently serviced from us and figured, okay, why did they go to my competitor in the market? What's my competitor doing? And then that led back into that conversation we had earlier about the secret shopper, to dig into, what we could to see how we could fix our process. And so, one strategy that we learned from the survey is our competitor was doing a really good job with videos on the first day, and we weren't. And they felt the connection with the salesperson or with the BDC agent, and then they wanted to, buy from them. And we were just still in that order taking mode. And so, now a lot of our stores, it's still not a perfect process. We're still working on it. Have added in day one video. They scoreboard it.
Great.
I'd flip it around and show it to you. It's on a big TV in my office. Each store we can see to make sure that they've sent out
Which
that.
video tool are you using, Jeff?
We use DriveCentric for our CRM, and then we're sending the videos through DriveCentric. We had co-video beforehand, couldn't absolutely loved the platform, but with it being built in Drive, it was one less tool that the salespeople had to log into, and so we've had great success with
I
that.
love it. So here's a perfect example. Dealers, when you maybe first heard, or maybe in the past heard a sales alert, okay, you can notify me when somebody bought, I'm going to take them out of my active workflow. For some very basic dealers, that has some value. I'm going to optimize the time on my BDC. But people who are managing their first party data, let me just share with you some of these other workflows. Jeff, with his survey, RDR data comes in, CRM is updated. Okay, this person's out of market. Let's find out why. Trigger a survey. In another dealer group, we're doing triggering a survey. And if we don't get the survey in, a few days, it triggers a call to an outsourced BDC. But think about the other things. If you're working with your first party data, you can move that person from an active sales audience into a service audience, or an active sales audience into a household marketing audience. Just like you said, Jeff, let's find out why. Great. But let's stay in touch with these people, knowing that they could service. There's other vehicles in the household. Let's show that we can go above and beyond. So we're saving marketing dollars. We're delivering a contextual message, which increases engagement and relevance and value.
Brian, real quick, not to cut you off.
Yeah.
One thing, I was in a meeting at one of our stores this morning, and we've been providing them an export of the data, and one thing that they said that they absolutely loved is in Sales Alert, it provides us the DNA of the customer, and it tells us when they didn't buy from us and they defected, what model segment that they ended up purchasing. And what the sales manager said is it gave us an opportunity to look that a customer came in on a Suburban. So many of them left in an Equinox, or left in a Blazer, or left in a this, that then when we went to go car up our customers, we started recommending these models because that's where we were missing on our sections. And next thing you know, we were carring them into, or we've even started to now on our, different email cadences and drip campaigns that go out to customers, we've adjusted what other recommended vehicles we put in those emails by looking at the customer that came in on a Silverado but defected and is driving an Encore GX or whatever it might be.
Yes, that
and
is
that's
so good. And
it's been
every
neat.
market's different, right? Every market is going to be different. And this is the beauty of the API and the data, because then you can feed these defection purchases into a decision engine to help, improve your showroom process, your carousels that you show people, right, that are visiting a VDP. Jason, one of the other things that I'm super excited about is when you combine the sales alert data and the traffic view data, when you kind of mash them up, and I forget the product, but it has a 4 in it, I think, is that you can start to see on a store-by-store basis, are they having a closing problem based on how many cars they should have sold, or is it a marketing problem? We don't have enough leads to hit the numbers. And I think that knowing a defection is one thing, knowing a break in the sales process is another thing. Those are two great outcomes. But when you put it all together, it also is diagnostic about the strategy. Jason, talk a little bit more about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You hit it right on the head, which is, when you look at vehicles that you have on your lot, right? You've got, every dealer knows what 3 or 4 models it is that are aging that you want to move faster. It really comes down to one of 2 items, key items, and that is, are you getting enough consideration, for those models, which marketing, that's going to indicate if there's a marketing issue. And then if you are getting enough consideration, why aren't you converting those customers into sales at your dealership? And that's where we really get into the breakdown. What are the possible areas of breakdown? Is it the mix of inventory? Is it the volume of traffic and quality? Because we look at, some leads, as you get into some of the products like Traffic View, the ability to look at all your leads on a map and see that you've got integrations with third-party providers that may be sending you leads from 75 miles away. Every defection that comes through is not created equal. And that's really, as we get into the tools and we get into the operational breakdowns, we want to figure out how we capitalize on the defections that matter the most. Those that are from, customers in your PMA, from customers requesting models that you have on the lot. And as you get in, you can start to assess, are you getting that consideration? Are you getting enough customers requesting the type of vehicle that you're trying to sell? So as an example, I was actually looking at a dealership's report just this past week, calendar year to date, and dealers are trying to ramp up their sale of EV vehicles. And we were able to look and see that this particular dealership had almost 700 EV buyers in their market calendar year to date, but they've only generated 65 customers requesting an EV for their store. So that's an example of where we see that the dealer has a consideration problem. We've got to figure out a way to get more customers considering that particular dealer when it comes to customers considering, EV purchases. So that's an example of how we would identify a marketing issue. And then we get into more conversion related problems, which could be related to follow-up after 2 or 3 weeks, et cetera. But as you get into conversion, there's multiple layers to conversion. But we first start, is it marketing or is it conversion? Because then the dealer can really get into process changes, to drive performance.
And Jeff, as CMO, I want to dive in here because the urban science data will show the market effectiveness at a per zip code level or a vehicle level. Have you found that when you market as a whole, right? Sometimes it's hard to see weak spots, but their data is I've seen this is like, hey, in this zip code, you're really underperforming. And in this area, you're underperforming. Have you ever used this data then in a more tactical way to say, let me do some more streaming TV in these areas or these 2 zips. Let me do some more direct mail. How are you using those like weak spots where marketing demand isn't strong enough? Because really, I want dealers to understand that all of this data has a tactical response if you want to get better.
So what my favorite example for that is what project Jason got us started on here is we really looked at, and we were, Silverado, that's our core inventory. We're truck country here in the middle of the United States in Kansas City. And we were trying to figure out, okay, why aren't we moving Silverados? Why aren't we moving Silverados? And so what we did is we used the data from Urban Science in order to look at not just the model we were carrying, but the trim level that we were carrying. And then we looked at the map to see, okay, on my mailer, that's going to target this area, which is a higher income. Obviously, once we dug into the data, we had the high country versus this area, the LT, and then we adjusted our inventory and traded some inventory in between the 3 stores in order to make sure that the store that was, having more success with the LT or whatever the trim line was, had those in the front line and everything like that. And then that in turn adjusted our paid search strategy on, because our 3 stores compete against each other because they're so darn close in the market. And so, it's okay, well, this store is going to go after this area because this is the inventory they have, and this is the consumer in those zip codes that we're targeting. And so it was really interesting, to make that deep dive to see when Jason started pointing out on that, hey, this store is doing really, really good on high countries. And frankly, where the store is located, you know, would have never really realized that. And it's something that we should have known, and we had the data to tell us, but we hadn't looked at it until we had the report so clear in urban science when Jason presented that. And so um, I would say now, all of our OTT, our display targeting, our social targeting, everything now is much more pinpointed. And then what we're in the process of now is testing with some CDPs that are in the market in order to try to, we print all of our direct mail in-house. So we have a print shop here in our facility. And so now we're trying to use the urban science data, plus our CRM and DMS data, put it all together and really refine our list so that way, we can save on postage, we can save on printing, and have a much more effective campaign. It's already been, we've put it in place with our email campaigns, and we've probably seen, probably 5 to 10% increase in read rates. And so it's slowly working there. We're a heavy direct mail market. It works. If you would have asked me that a couple of years ago, I would have told you it doesn't, but it does. And so, it's saving us a lot of pennies by having that data.
Great. Well, I want to summarize for the dealers who are listening. The data portfolio not only can help reduce the time your sales associates are trying to invest to sell a car and change the conversation. You could change your marketing on a dime. You can suppress your marketing. You can use the data to see why someone defected, how they defected, and what model they purchased, and to see which areas by model are you the weakest in your marketing demand. These are all the blind spots that dealers never had before. And you don't need a CDP because, well, the integrations with a CRM and their own data lists can help you do your own manual suppression. But as we move into a data first party data management mindset, these tools are really amazing. And that's why at the Modern Retailing Conference, we're going to have the team from Urban Science, Jeff, and Kevin Fry from the Weiler Automotive Group, who's also involved in the defection study, also going to be automating the survey. I think today they're launching their first surveys out. We're going to have some amazing data, but most importantly, I want you to have the opportunity to sit down with Jeff and the Urban Science team to see what the data looks like, ask questions on how Jeff is deploying it or how Kevin is deploying it. But overall, in a mindset where many dealers are looking to cut costs, I want you to flip the script a little bit and make a small investment to reduce waste, to increase relevance, to accelerate service through sales opportunities, and more importantly, plug the holes in your sales process. Jason, if a dealer who's listening to the podcast can't get out to MRC, what's the best way for them to learn about Traffic View, Sales Alert, and the whole portfolio of data products?
Yeah, you can go to urbanscience.com and you'll find the products there, and you can find them by name. In particular, we've spent a focus on Sales Alert here today. So if you go to urbanscience.com and you find Sales Alert on that page, you can learn more. And then there's some contact us, prompts there where you can send a message over, and then they'll connect you with the right person who can help you with your specific brand. And then therefore we could work on, showing you a demo of those solutions as well.
Great. Jeff, I want to thank you for investing in your time today, but also being willing to come out to the conference and share. What are you most excited about in sharing with your peers? Because I know you're really passionate about using data to be operationally efficient.
Yeah, I mean, I think that on my side of things, I want to hear some ideas on where we're missing and where we could be doing it better. We struggled at first on getting people to respond to the surveys, and then we took your advice and we tried doing the phone calls, and then we implemented that process, and it's worked. We've got a ton of data, and people answer the phone, and some of them weren't as fun when we talked to them, but we got a lot of great data. And basically, we just took our survey that we were emailing out, had it in front of the representative calling, and went through that process, and got a lot of great information. And so I'm very excited to see, there's so much data in urban science. That's the thing that I would, warn other dealers in a nice way is pick one thing, get really good at it, and then the next
Yes.
month add something else. And I think that Jason, with us and all the other urban science reps have been just amazing at not overwhelming you, because if you first log into it, you're going to say, oh, where do I start? This is too much data. But I'm excited to show you that it's not too much data, that you focus on one thing, you get the needle moving with that, and then you log into the next report and the next report, and next thing you know, you've implemented it. And I think urban science does a great job of how they have the dashboard laid out with those reports. And so as a dealer, I think that we can give some great advice on how we started that process, and then probably learn a lot and from other stores as well.
Great. Well, I want to thank you both for your time today. We're looking forward to hosting you at the beautiful O Resort in Palm Beach. The Modern Retailing Conference is November 17, 18, 19, just a few days away. And more importantly, it's the place where advanced conversations are occurring to improve the retail operation, both in sales and service, and urban science will be and will continue to be in the midst of many of these conversations, because dealers are learning when they manage their first party data, they can finally tap into great third party resources that can change the way they do business. If this is the first time you're listening to one of my podcasts, you should know that there are dozens of interviews with other speakers and leaders who are coming to MRC. So if you can't make the conference, listen in, learn about the new technology, strategies, and ideas that are powering modern retailing. And for many of you, I'll see you in just a few days in Palm Beach. Gentlemen, thanks for your time. Everyone, thank you for listening in, and I'll see you next time on another podcast interview. Thank you.